Sometimes the scariest thing isn't ghosts or the supernatural. Sometimes the most terrifying thing is a human being. Someone who seems completely normal at first, but within minutes you realize you've made a huge mistake. And at that point, you only have one goal: get out alive. Went to an abandoned hospital. There was a large square staircase on the outside of the building, spiraling all the way up to the roof. At the bottom, there was a locked steel door, so the only way up was to climb from the outside to reach the first landing. The plan was simple. My buddy and I just wanted to sit on the roof and drink some beer. It was an old, empty place. Abandoned buildings have a certain vibe. Silence, the sound of wind, rusted metal, and that strange feeling that even though everything is gone, the place isn't really empty. My buddy boosts me up. I climb over the railing, and the moment I step onto the first landing, I see a sleeping bag, and right next to it, a steak knife. I immediately look down and say, we're definitely not alone here, dude. And right at that moment, a voice comes from behind me. No, but it's cool. That voice scares the hell out of me. I jump and spin around instantly, and there's a young, dirty, homeless-looking guy walking down the stairs from above. His hands are up, palms out, and he says, "Didn't mean to scare you." He sits down on the stairs. I quietly place my foot on the handle of the steak knife, then lean over the edge and pull my friend up. We had come here to drink beer, so we offer the homeless guy one. He gratefully accepts. Then we all sit there on the landing and start talking. We talk about the city, the cops, you traveling, life in general. He's basically a drifter. Says he's been in town for about a week or so, and honestly, he seems like a nice guy. A little rough, a little strange, but friendly. The situation started off tense, but slowly it began to feel normal. Then suddenly he asks, "You guys are human, right?" Everything goes quiet for a second. "Nay." Then he says, "I fucking hate it when I meet people that end up being aliens, and you never know until you peel their skin off. They've been after me a long time. You know, they don't stop. They never stop. Sometimes I think I should just kill everyone to be safe." At that moment, we realize he's not joking. There's an uncomfortable silence between me and my friend, the kind that happens when you suddenly understand that the person in front of you is unstable, and you're stuck with him in an isolated place. I slowly say, "Yeah, man, we're human. We just wanted to check out the place and drink some beer. We're going to go ahead and move on now. We definitely don't want any trouble." He just stares at us in silence, doesn't say anything. We leave him the last beer, then carefully back up to the railing, jump down and walk away quickly, constantly looking back over our shoulders. And the entire time, he just stands there, still, silent, watching us leave. That place is still abandoned 5 years later, and we've never been back. I'm not a believer in the supernatural, but humans can be deceptive and dangerous in ways you can't see coming. There is probably some medical explanation for this, but it is still one of the weirdest things I've ever heard happen in a hospital. Because when someone flatlines, that's supposed to be the end. The room goes quiet. The family gets called. The staff begins the process, and no one expects that person to suddenly come back and start fighting like nothing happened. But that is exactly what happened. This story happened to a nurse who had a very robust, confused old lady on their floor. Her room was directly in front of the nurse's station, so the staff could keep a close eye on her. They even had one of the nurse's aides sitting with her as a sitter. She was not calm at all. She was constantly fighting, kicking, and trying to get out of bed. She was restless, agitated, and hard to manage. And according to the nurse, this kind of behavior was familiar. Some patients they had seen before could get very restless and unsettled right before death. So while the old lady's behavior was difficult, it wasn't completely unexpected. At first, it just seemed like one more intense shift with one more difficult patient. But then everything changed. One day, the staff was suddenly called into the room because her heart rate was dropping. When they got there, she was lying completely still with her eyes open. The heart rate monitor kept falling, 30, 20, and then flatline. They checked for a pulse. There was nothing. No pulse. No signs of life. And because she was a DNR, they did not attempt resuscitation. At that point, everyone believed the same thing. She was gone. So the nurses did what they were supposed to do next. They closed her eyes. They prepared to get the body bag. They got ready to call the family. The sitter stayed behind in the room to begin getting the body ready. Everything had already shifted from patient care to post-death procedure. That was it. The moment had passed. The woman had flatlined. There was no pulse. Everyone in that room believed they had just witnessed her death. But then less than 10 minutes later, the sitter called them back into the room. And when they came in, the old lady was at it again, hitting, kicking, trying to get out of the bed. Just like before, she had come back to life. No CPR, no resuscitation attempt, no dramatic medical intervention. She had simply come back on her own. And as unbelievable as it was, the nurse said they honestly found the whole situation hilarious. Because after all of that, after the flatline, and after checking for a pulse, after closing her eyes, after preparing for the body bag, there she was again, fighting everyone and trying to climb out of bed like she had unfinished business. The nurse even said they had still never seen any other patient come back like that on their own. Not before, not since. And somehow, the strangest part is not just that she came back, it's that the nurse thinks she may have actually made it out of the hospital too. There is probably a medical explanation for what happened. Maybe something was missed. Maybe there was some rare physical response. Maybe there is a technical reason behind it all. But even with that possibility, it is still the weirdest thing that nurse had seen so far. Because in a place where people are trained to recognize death, this old lady flatlined, had no pulse, and was treated as gone. And then less than 10 minutes later, she was right back where she started, hitting, kicking, and trying to get out of bed. There are some places where the past never really leaves, where no matter how much time passes, something still lingers. And sometimes, the people closest to death are the only ones who can see it. Because in this nursing home, patients don't just die. Before they go, they all seem to see the same thing. A little girl. I've worked in a small family-run nursing home for 6 years as a nurse aide. Before it became a nursing home, it was an orphanage, and not a normal one. Before it was shut down, the orphanage had a history of severe abuse and neglect. This isn't gossip, the owner herself told us. So from the very beginning, there was already something unsettling about the place. A history that no one could ignore. But at first, it was just a job, taking care of residents, helping them through their final days. Nothing unusual, until a pattern started to appear. When residents get close to death, they always start seeing a little girl. It's not random. It's not 1 or 2 cases. It keeps happening, and it always ends the same way. One of my patients was a very alert gentleman. He knew all of our names. He was fully aware, oriented, and completely normal. One day, I was passing out dinner trays. When I got to his room, I saw that his back was turned. He was facing the corner, talking and laughing. I knocked and asked him who he was talking to. He chuckled and said, "This little girl came into my room. She was scared." 3 days later, he died. At the time, it felt strange, but maybe explainable. But then, about 6 months later, it happened again. Another patient. This time, he wasn't calm. He was screaming, panicking. He kept shouting about a little girl grabbing his feet, saying she needed to leave him alone. He died that same night. And over the years, it keeps happening. Different patients, different times, same exact story. They see a little girl, and then they die. It's not just me either. Other co-workers have had the same experience, the same descriptions, the same fear, the same outcome. No one really talks about it openly, but everyone who works there knows. When a patient starts talking about a little girl, you already know what's coming next. There could be explanations, stress, hallucinations, the mind reacting before death. But that doesn't explain why it's always the same thing. The same little girl, seen by different people, at different times, in a place that used to be an orphanage, with a history no one wants to think about. And after all these years, she still hasn't left. It's very unsettling.